Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbaugh.
Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I have somebody on the show today who really has some insight into the future of work as we really are seeing it now and growing tremendously. Olga Mizrahi was born in Europe and via London, landed in South Bend, Indiana at the age of 5. After her dad's relocation for work, she and her younger sister grew up in and around Los Angeles. Her parents were hard-working immigrants who both had a love of science and engineering. As such, from an early age, Olga was encouraged to think analytically while engaging in creative problem solving. Olga is widely known for her 2 best-selling books, Sell Local, Think Global, and The Gig is Up. Of course, it took her some time to amass the know-how in those pages. She started her career in the .com world, went on to teach web design at the ripe old age of 24, earned a master's degree in business, and eventually started her own successful design firm. Now coming full circle, she teaches transmedia for the University of California CE Irvine's digital marketing program. She's proud to be able to show her family that living the dream is truly possible when you put your mind to it. Olga is multifaceted, engaging in intellectual pursuits, as well as getting out in nature, skiing, stand-up paddleboarding, and mountain biking for fun. She embraces the work hard, play hard philosophy. She is a lifelong learner who is always connecting with others, reading how-to materials, listening to podcasts, and attending seminars that foster perpetual growth. She currently blogs at chunkachange.com and leads a small team at Oso Design, which serves a wide variety of clients in web design and development, as well as business consulting and strategic marketing. Olga currently lives in Long Beach, California, with her husband of 21 years and their multi-talented preteen daughter, who keeps her even busier with extracurricular classes and performances. Olga Mizrahi, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I am ready.
I am glad you're here. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Now, I've given my Legion a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
My current passion is truly the gig economy. There are so many opportunities, both on the corporate side and outside of corporate, to really take advantage of the future of work. It is just amazing right now. It's filled with anxiety too. I don't want to completely sugarcoat it, but there's so many opportunities, and I want to make sure that your listeners know there's something out there for them.
And, I think there's something out there for them. So for me, there's a lot of podcasts out there to talk about being an entrepreneur and doing your own thing. And I know you get on a lot of those podcasts, but mine's a little bit different. We have more people who are in organizations that are actually listening to the show, but I see the whole entrepreneur aspect as well as an opportunity for organizations to really, from a coaching perspective, say to some of their top employees and top talent, say, you know what, have you ever thought about doing this as a side hustle? Or making and opening up more opportunities for you for growth.
So 85% of millennials, the fastest growing segment of the U.S. workforce, want to telecommute 100% of the time, right? They want to be remote 100% of the time. So if you have top performers in your organization, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take a little bit more from the gig economy in terms of mentality. A lot of these people have side hustles. They have other interests. How about we nurture that so they feel like a whole person and they want to stay because they love that you understand that?
I think it's very short-sighted to think of development and skill development and growth from an organization's perspective and a person who's in an organization as a leader to say that you're only going to get that here. Maybe it's a good opportunity to really stop and say, what is gig economy? I think your definition is a little bit different than what I have seen before. So if you can, kind of explain that to me.
Right. So I think there's a lot of confusion around the gig economy because we start hearing things like sharing economy, app economy, knowledge economy, connection economy. Well, they're all the same flipping thing. The thing is, most people go, oh, crap, does that mean I have to be an Uber driver? Does that mean that I have to have somebody now stay in my house and be an Airbnb? No, There are hundreds of platforms out there that cater to project work. And that's the key. Project work and technology combined, right? Freelancers aren't new. We've had freelancers forever. So what's new? It's the technology behind it. So there are, like I said, hundreds of different apps and platforms that now feed this definition. The gig economy is project-based services or on-demand that can be really provided by anyone at any time. It's that simple.
I think for me, it was also kind of a aha when I started looking at some of the statistics associated with, as your definition of gig economy, is looked at across the entire economy, how really prevalent this is. But even by 2020, there's some amazing statistics that I think we're probably going to maybe even reach sooner. Can you share some of those?
Right. So 1 out of 3 people identify as being part of the gig economy right now. Does that mean full-time contract work? No. That can mean somebody who identifies because they're doing it as a side gig, but it also does include full-time freelancers and contract workers in that statistic. What's amazing is within 2 years, that's going to be 1 out of every 2. So 1 out of every 2 people in the United States is going to have some sort of 1099 income coming their way from being part of the gig economy. And that is mind-blowing. Think about what that means for you if you're not necessarily interested in being in the gig economy. Well, guess what? There's probably a loved one that is, either by choice or not. And there's probably somebody on your team that is. So there's something that we know is coming around the corner. Let's look at it. Let's take it head on and really take advantage of the opportunities coming our way.
I also see from an organizational perspective that they're really going to have to change the way that they look at work and how to get work done, how to resource and deploy, against all of those different tasks and all of that. And so I see that organizations as a core from an employee perspective, and we've seen it over time, but I think they're missing one side of it, meaning that they've thinned out, but yet they're placed more responsibility on the people that are left and expecting them to do more. And we just know from a human perspective, we can really only focus in on 1 or 2 things at a time. We need to have people and resources that are outside of the organization to be able to handle the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that I'm not getting to.
Right. So what is the essence of your organization? There's almost this competitive advantage, number 1. And number 2, almost necessity as we go into the future of work to take a really hard look and say, what is it that is our essence that we can't outsource? That is our competitive advantage. And then those things that you can, what about you don't even maybe know? What if you said to a top performer, look, I'm going to give you a budget this week. Here's $500. Here's $1,000. I want you to find something that frees you up by going to Upwork, by going to Fiverr, by going to any of these platforms and have something get done where you manage that process, but hopefully it'll free you up. So you're not only teaching that employee a new skill as far as managing remote workers, but also you're asking your whole organization to say, okay, what is your essence? If you can outsource that, it's not your essence.
Okay, so that brings up a really interesting point as I started thinking about the fact that a lot of organizations may say that their essence is really their culture. And so if I'm using a lot of outsourcers or giggers to do a lot of my work, how am I going to maintain or even grow that culture and get them to engage within it?
What an excellent question. One of the biggest challenges with this new influx of gig workers is the communication aspect, right? The idea of how to bring them also into the culture. There's also, by the way, a lot of contract workers that are coming on site to companies. And guess what? There's a little bit of a discrimination happening still. I don't think there's shame in contract work like there used to be. There used to be really like this. You would go into corporate and you'd be like, oh, that's just a temp guy, right? But now I think, appreciate more these specialized skills that people bring to the table. okay, so if they're coming on site, how about we make sure they don't have the broken chair and we haven't stolen all their office supplies? And we also invite them to the meeting because we forgot that they were part of the team because we don't see them every day in front of our face. Those types of things can be easily remedied by checklists and by bringing that into the organization. After all, like there's no harm in checklists, really, people. Like, why do you think we fly like safely? It's all because of checklists. So it's like, do you have a pre-flight checklist for when you bring gig workers and contract workers on?
No, that's a great point. I mean, I do see that, onboarding process, that engagement process, and all of that in itself from an organization perspective, requiring a unique set of skills that now has to be taught to a lot of different parts of the organization as they're bringing these workers on, and many times multiples, of them for longer periods of time, and also managing all of the, like I said, the whole deployment aspect of it, managing of people, knowing that they're in the right place at the right time, focusing on the right things. That in itself is huge.
There are some technology helpers, right? Like your audience right now hears me, and that's wonderful, but you actually see me because we're using a program so that we can connect as we're talking. And for all you know, we're actually sitting in the same studio in North Carolina, but in reality, I'm in Long Beach, right? So there's many more technologies that allow that connection, whether it's as simple as FaceTime. I can't tell you how many times I've been through airports or through, a local Starbucks, and you see people on FaceTime working. Why is that? Because it creates a certain level of connection that you don't get on a conference call that nobody's paying attention to anyway.
Well, it's so true. I mean, it's kind of funny that you say that because I'm currently on a retainer for an organization and working on some of their materials and content, sales materials, marketing materials, doing some other project work because of my skills that I've built in emotional intelligence and connecting with people. And so when I come on, and we use GoToMeeting a lot, that's the product that they're using, is that when I come on, I'm automatically activating my webcam, and people, someone made a comment today, "Oh, Jim's here, turn your webcam on."
Very nice. Good training, Jim.
That's exactly right. I think it's just, new habits, right? And that's really what I'm getting at, is that we have to undertake new habits that we haven't, used in the past and have really even thought about because of this future of work that we're really talking about.
Yeah. And so if we get back to, I love that you have intrapreneurs, right? I remember back in the late 90s, I went in-house at Pacific Investment Management Company, and it was the first time that they had ever had a website. And then very quickly they discovered the beauty of an intranet, right? Like all of a sudden I had, here I am, this little basically snot coming in, like knowing web design, which very few people did at the time. And all of a sudden I was like hot beep, because all of these managers were coming to me and saying, hold on, you mean our accounting department can put on the expense sheets and people can download them, but people from the outside can't see them, and so this is kind of an extension of, you had to sell people right back then on the value of an intranet. Now it's a lot of times these sites are larger, most of the time actually, than the external versions. And they're always trying to get more efficient and more things out of them. And the same thing kind of with video conferencing and things like that. Like all of those have kind of come into the mainstream. Well, this is the next level. This is the next thing. And I feel like the more prepared you are as an intrapreneur to say, how can I take advantage of these technologies and of these resources that are worldwide? It's not that it's easy. It's kind of like saying, oh, I don't want to hire them because it just doesn't work when I go on Upwork. Really, because hiring temps back in the day worked so well? Like, come on. These are human issues. So that's not going away. It's how you're dealing with the humanity and the connection. And especially with younger generations, they crave that connection. It's not like, in fact, if anything, they have maybe some boundary issues, but should we be surprised We're asking them to be on 24/7 when their phone dings. So, Slack channel, anyone? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're totally right. And it goes back to, change, transformation. And we have to do things differently. And that doesn't come easy because we've been wired to, conserve energy and put things in cruise control. So we just have to take it out of cruise, I guess. So when we're talking about all of this and the economic transformation, our individual transformation, our organizational transformation, all of those things, there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in that. And one of the things that we look at on the show in order to help us get focused on the right emotions are quotes. So is there a quote or two that you can share that you like?
Perfect is the enemy of the good. In today's environment, the launch is quick. And so some of us are still back in that perfect thing. I can't go because this isn't perfect and I'm going to get reamed. And what happens is then you don't go, or you don't go as boldly. And yet it's the bold, fortune favors the bold in essence, that get any sort of attention or cut through everything that's out there. So don't be afraid to launch and launch often. It's tough to even have stuff that's out there. I'm not immune. I just flex the muscle more. That's it. It's a muscle that I flex. And the more that I kind of put out there, the better I am at not trying to reel it back in because it's not perfect.
Yeah, I think, we all talk about that you have to fall in order to get up, and it's not how, not what happens, but, how you actually react to it and all that. But but still nonetheless painful, and oftentimes we shy away from it. And that, like you said, it's a flexing of a muscle. So I always like, the things where, people are getting interviewed and talking about, that success that was just wild and it just took everybody by storm. And sometimes you'll hear them say, yeah, but let me tell you about the 200 other times I failed.
Right. It's the overnight success that took 20 years. Right.
That's exactly right. So I know talking about, your transition being born in Europe, being in London, I know you were young when all of that happened, but I'm still, especially with the family and the immigration, there was some culture shock, and definitely going from South Bend, Indiana to California had to be a huge one. But I know also there's been some transitions and humps that you've had to get over, and we learn a lot by those. Is there a story that you can tell when you've had to get over the hump?
Getting over the hump. Honey, I do that every week. Right? I'm going to share something from a long time ago, and then I'll share something really recent. And I'm going to start with the recent one. When we talk about flexing muscle and really putting, our money where our mouth is, I recently looked, obviously as an author, you look at your reviews, right? Just like on LinkedIn, you would look at your recs, or if you're a business owner, you look at Yelp and get mad. Say, how do I turn this Yelp thing off? You don't. Anyway, so I got a negative review on the book and I read it, of course. And my first reaction was, this person didn't even get past page 3 because they admitted it in the review. And they also had gotten like a free copy or something. And so, your first thing is like, you didn't even read it. Wait, what's going on? Like, da-da-da. But I had to reel myself back and say, reviews are so much of a part of the gig economy and the future of work. This is not about me just responding to this person or responding at all. I have a choice to not respond at all, to respond directly to the person, or to respond publicly. And that's what I did. I responded publicly. And the first thing I did was thank them because I truly appreciated that they took the flippin' time. That means a lot. So they didn't connect with me. Okay. So then I went and put forth that the issue that they couldn't get past on page 3 actually had a whole chapter dedicated to it in the book on ethics. And so I just asked, did you get to the ethics chapter? People have told me that they really enjoy that. And they've been, giving me good feedback on that. So maybe we still have a chance to connect or not, but just thought I'd throw that out there to be helpful. So not only am I responding to her in a very, not only cordial, but respectful way, but I'm doing it for everybody else that reads it, because it's important for them to know that this is a conversation. This is your opportunity also in this. You can thank Amazon just in general for all of us getting reviewed now, because they're the ones that started it. But we make those snap decisions now. So it's important to kind of be okay with having your neck out there a little bit.
Very much so. And again, I think that's one of those change things, right? I mean, where we just haven't been used to that. And I still, have that conversation even with myself. I just need to do it, get out, stick the neck out and just not worry about it. And like for you, I would like to respond to everything too, regardless of whatever it is. It's just giving myself the pause so that I don't respond, with some type of passive aggressive thing, right?
Exactly. Where you're just like, hey, right?
Exactly.
So I promised you an earlier story. So because I came to this country so young, I obviously don't have much of an accent or anything like that. But, talk about getting over the hump. I didn't know what a fireplace was. So I'm, 5 or 6 years old in kindergarten. And where we came from, including, by the way, in London, there's just not a lot. Like they have these kind of old coal almost like things in the middle of the room. And so, we're coming around Christmas. That's when we came to this country. And, there's the stockings on the fireplace. And this is all new to me. And I get handed like a color sheet with this. And I don't know what this is. And I'm also very shy and I'm just learning the language. The teacher automatically assumed that I was special. So that's my first hump to get over.
Well, you are special, just not in the way that she thought.
No, not in the way it's not. I won't tell you what she actually wrote because I don't think it's politically correct to use that word anymore. But you get the idea. So needless to say, that was like probably within 1 month of coming here and your first challenge as a child.
Well, you definitely have overcome that because I really enjoyed going through the book and some of the work that you're doing. I have not even been exposed to some of the work that you're doing with Chunk of Change, so I'm looking forward to that. But I do want to make sure before we move on that we talk about one thing that you address, because I see it more and more, and you talk about the Robopocalypse.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
OMG, Jim. I just posted this crazy video on, like, do you know how you just share videos on Facebook? So if you guys haven't seen it, the Boston Dynamics, the robot company, has this terrifying looking like huge dog that runs at like it can run like something like 35 miles an hour. And I'm already thinking of like the military implications and like scaring myself to death. Well, somebody posted on Facebook, it must have been one of the engineers, where this thing is walking through their house and coming around a corner, and they just put like banana peels down and they went down. And they're like, bananas will save us from the attack of the robots, And that's the whole thing. AI is here, artificial intelligence, machine learning. When we think about just Google Translate, what Google Translate does, they realized this a few years back. They realized that it doesn't make sense for Google Translate to translate from English to Spanish. It created its own language. And so every single language that it translates from, it goes English, Google language, Spanish. Spanish, Google language, French, right? So it has an underlying, basically machine learned language that is now like 90 some odd percent, like 90, high 90s, like 95, 98. I don't remember the exact statistic, accurate. And that's also allowed for speech to be that way. So those of you that have an Echo or a Google Home or any of those types of things in your house, the whole reason you can talk to it is because of AI and because of machine learning. I actually nicknamed ours Wiretap, and it's in my daughter's room. It does not live anywhere else in the house. So I'm like, if you want to talk to the Wiretap, you go on ahead. But I'm a little old school when it comes to that.
Well, you're still not sure about who's listening, right?
Still not sure. And, and there's, it raises this whole host of other questions, which is what we see now anyway, in terms of technology and all that stuff, which is we can't keep up as far as the laws and understanding and whatever. I think, something in the news recently was that the transcripts from one of those was asked for by prosecutors from a supposed, murder of a wife-husband thing. And so anyway, so like we have all that. So then, so it's not, and it makes great news too, right? Because we've been taught from Terminator to like everything that like everything's dystopian. Like our future is dystopian. I am so sorry. Like nothing is happening. And yet we don't really appreciate the fact that, for instance, seniors in their home, like now have somebody to talk to, can order things, can get things done. Like there are other sides to this stuff, guys. And there are ways that we can also implement it, that make sense. In my book, I don't know if you saw this little picture in there. I was looking for examples of how like we're not there yet. Like we can't like just think like, oh, great, we're just done for, right? And it was that they had a robot basically doing the choosing for phone cases on Amazon. So this artificial intelligence, and basically they were saying, hey, just give us the really popular stock photos and we'll make them into phone cases on demand. Kind of an interesting idea, except that they got things like old man in diaper. Like, in other words, they didn't quite realize that there's a lot of stock photography that's used by, companies selling stuff to old people or, whatever. And so like all of a sudden these are these phone cases that nobody in their right mind would want to buy. Like some guy with sexy abs and like a piece of cheese on it. Like, you're just like, what is this? This is so random because a human didn't do the choosing.
Well, and I think from a gig economy perspective, when you start thinking about AI, a lot of people think that it's just we're going to have a lot of jobs wiped out. But I was actually reading a study that talked about, okay, so over the next couple of years, we're going to lose, 1.8 million jobs used to artificial intelligence. However, there's going to be like 2.1 or 2.2 million jobs created because of AI. And I think that's going to have a huge impact on the gig economy.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to, for those of you that are truly kind of in disbelief about the fact that this, like if you're already picturing the Terminator to robot coming and taking your job, I'd like you to look at James Zarofsky, and he writes in The Great Tech Panic, Robots Won't Take All Our Jobs, that since automation allows companies to produce more with fewer people, a great wave of automation should drive higher productivity growth, right? Yet in reality, in the past decade, by historical standards, productivity has been kind of dismally low. So like back in the heyday of the US economy from 47 to 73, labor productivity grew at an average pace of nearly 3% a year. But in the past 10 years, so since 2007, it has grown at a rate of around 1.2%, the slowest pace in any period since World War II. And over the past 2 years, productivity, a mere 0.6%. So, and that's the very years when anxiety about automation spiked. So it's simply not what you'd see if efficient robots were replacing our human inefficiencies en masse. So that's a little bit of a reality check for all of us. And this is where you go, okay, well then what's taking like all these jobs? Because they love pointing at automation, right? Like almost any, like, and it's almost like a given. Like you read some of these articles and it's like, it's just a given. Well, robots will take our jobs. It's not a given. What's actually happened is that, and it's kind of like China, right? Because 2.4 million jobs have disappeared from 99 to 2011 alone due to massive trade deficits driven by manufacturing. And by the way, people, that's all of us purchasing crap on Amazon. Do you know what I mean? Like we somehow want to blame China, but like, I did kind of order all my child's dance tights on Amazon in like a 6-pack for what one would have cost from the dance store. And it came in a strange package that was from China. Like that means that I contributed to that. And so did all of us. So I think it's one of those things like, can we just kind of take a little bit of responsibility too? That we're part of the problem,
Most definitely.
So anyway.
Most definitely. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Olga, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet relevant responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Olga Mizrahi, are you ready to hoe down?
I'm ready.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Letting go of perfection.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
You're not thinking big enough.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Constant lifelong learning.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Embracing automation.
And what would be one book that you'd recommend to our listeners? And it could be from any genre. Of course, we're going to put a link to the Giga's Up, Thrive in the Gig Economy, where old jobs are obsolete and freelancing is the future on your show notes page as well.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin, so let's go with Linchpin.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and another bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Olga Mizrahi. Okay, Olga, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you have been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take everything back. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
I would work in Silicon Valley instead of Orange County. Because I started before the dot-com bubble. So I'd be on a yacht right now.
Olga, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Easiest way, chunkofchange.com, which is where I blog. And you can find out more there. And I really appreciate the Fast Leader Legion having me on today. And let me know how I can best support you in the future.
Olga Mizrahi, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Woo-hoo! Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.